That's the thing. He's got to take his dick pills, and then you got to wait 30 minutes for those to kick in. This is why I don't date old men anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a couple bad experiences, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Couple bad experiences at the Y, and that's why I don't fuck old men anymore.
I would have just stopped going to the Y, but we all make
you
our
go
own
once,
decisions.
you're traumatized, you go back.
Yeah,
that's my
the
theory.
thing.
Yep, show up again.
Is that how you untraumatize?
Yeah, you just try to reverse it. So basically, you go and you try to fuck the old man, and then it still doesn't happen.
I think, guys, are we at the point where fuck me, fight me? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you're definitely at a fuck me, fight me. Yeah.
If I'm naked in the Y and you're naked in the Y,
it's
fuck me, fight me.
Yeah. Fuck me, fight me is primarily based off of the theory of fight or flight.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the same situation.
It's really the same. Yeah, same situation.
Either your fists come up or your dick comes up.
Yeah, and in some cases, both.
The biggest issue for me is when someone's a real good kisser, because I don't know how it's going to end.
Right.
You don't know how it's going to end.
Is it going to be a fight? And all of a sudden we're into it.
And are you fighting them with your mouth? Are you fighting them with the mouth and the tongue?
Am I then fighting my emotions is what I'm actually
fighting.
Right,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my heart broken too many times.
Yeah. And they will tell you that, because they're trying to win. They're trying to win at that fuck.
A real man never fights his emotions.
So I gotta point out that one of our fans, or at least one of our listeners, commented on our Facebook page and said, I really liked the content, but it seemed to be an awful lot of talk about dog dicks. And I just want to note, we've graduated from dog dicks to old man dicks. Lynn, if you're listening, ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. If you look at progression, I would definitely say old man dick is the next step above dog dicks.
Yeah, we want more mature content. So we're going old man dick.
Mature content.
You asked for higher brow, we're getting the highest brow, the grayest brow.
Well, welcome to the Lesser Known People podcast. I will be your host this evening, Ryan Lyon. I am joined by Mr. J-Master Justin. How are you? How are we doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm a little bit burnt. I got into the tanning bed the other day like an idiot, and I didn't know.
Oh, baby, no.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that there was a separate setting for the face tan, and I didn't realize that was all the way up until my eyeball started to melt. So now I'm like, my face is like ashy and dry. I'm like, my face is ashier than a California forest right now, dude. It's fucking.
He almost went full Raiders.
So I was gonna say, when you were in the tanning bedroom, did you look at the Ark of the Covenant, or did you keep your eyes shut?
Yeah, straight Ark of the Covenant for sure.
Damn it, Sean beat the fucking joke anyway. God damn it, fuck this podcast.
Whatever, I fucking laughed.
It's a good joke. It's a good joke. It's a good joke, and everyone loves Indiana Jones, and they all remember the face melting scenes.
Classic Spielberg, wax, really good stuff. Yeah,
it was wax.
We are also yeah. He was one.
Yeah, no one
we
can
are
round
also
up
joined
that
by.
many.
Yeah,
Sorry,
man.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, please get the joke in. Get the joke in. I'm just trying to give a goddamn intro.
You know it's going to take 15 minutes for us to.
It's going to take at least. This will be 35 minutes of the show here. Yeah, welcome. There's a musical number for you as well. I read book, so butterfly in the sky.
Whoa!
I can fly twice as high.
Serenade us.
Yeah.
Reading a book, though reading rainbow. Ooh, come join me up here. Ooh.
Snaps for Ryan.
Okay,
snaps for Ryan. Snaps for Ryan.
Nothing. You
There
give
we
me
go.
nothing. You give me nothing. This will be the musical episode, if you were wondering. We have about 4 or 5 renditions. Yeah. We're definitely we got a musical. This is our musical number. I primarily am going to sing the content this evening. It's mostly singing. I am joined by. I don't even know where to fucking go from here. Connor, could you tell me how you're doing this evening?
Oh, I'm great. I'm trying to sympathize with Jay Money here, but I've never seen a tanning bed in my life.
Okay. We got this beautiful Irish skin that doesn't do well in the tanning world. Doesn't do well in the light.
Keep it dark, keep it
You're a
safe.
nighttime creature. Yeah. I'm joined by Mr. Big Beautiful Sean. How are you, baby?
Oh, I'm doing all right, but you're missing that tagline that gives me my power and strength.
The magical carpet ride. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yeah. Oh God, thank you. That's what I'm waiting for.
He's going to take us all for a ride tonight.
He's going to take us all for a ride.
That's right. It's not even me. I'm gonna take you for a ride, but it's gonna be Big Cat who shows you the way.
I'm telling the story, and we're just going to sit on that carpet. I can show you the world. Like I said, this episode will be our musical sing-along.
Yeah.
And we are also joined by KY Jelly. How you doing?
It's just low ratings.
Oh, man.
Reporting
in.
in.
That's cool. Okay. We'll keep going here. That's all right. No. KY's looking beautiful
the funny
as
thing
ever.
is he's just going to cut Big Cat out.
Of my own story that I'm telling. It's just the jokes about my content.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my own intro over this, and then just cut in while you start telling the story.
No, KY, how we doing? He's looking very handsome, ruggedly handsome this evening.
I got 99% of the spiders out of my basement. I did have to shift for our more astute fans. I had to shift from the shed back to the basement. These nor'eastern winters are coming in quick, so your boy had to take shelter. So I shot back out all of the spiders out of my basement, and that took nigh on 5 hours. And then this morning, I came down to the basement to grab something, and I stepped on, I'm going to use the word salamander? Is that?
You stepped on a salamander.
Straight?
And you live in the Northeast. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the fuck that's about, but so I stepped on a lizard.
Did the tail come off? Perhaps
Tail did not come off. Tail did not come off. I don't know.
Stepped on it, you killed it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, because I thought it was cat vomit, so I went to go physically attack my cat with nothing but pure violence. I was barefoot too, so I
guess I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Barefoot and salamander.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
gross.
It's
crushed salamander. Basically salamander mush.
Can't say I've ever been there. You're on another plane, brother.
Under those big feet of yours.
Yeah, that salamander did not stand a chance, dude.
Ooh, baby.
He's lucky I didn't have my orthopedics on. He probably would have survived.
Exactly. Let's roll back to the New Balance we got. This evening, I have the very fun pleasure of telling a wonderful story. I got the idea from a book that was just an absolute pleasure to read. Title is Banzai Babe Ruth by the author Robert Fitz. Please, you can find it anywhere you will purchase books. That means popular chain like Narns and Boble. You could find it there.
Classic
anywhere.
Narns and Boble, yeah.
Mr. Fitz, if you're listening, sir, please go ahead, reach out to us if you can, and we'd love to have you on anytime. It sounds like it was an absolute wild time writing it as much as the actual story is. And if that didn't give you any indication of where this story is going, it is about Babe Ruth. It is taking place in the year of 1934, and it is involving a all-American all-star team going to Japan. And our primary hero this evening is actually none of the Americans. I am focusing primarily on the individual who put this whole thing together. And
the Sultan of SWAT. The king of cloud.
He is the exactly. So it's fun. We do get to reference him. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. A lot of fun to talk about.
I saw Big Cat reference sports, and KY's face just turned to stone.
So I guess this would be a good time to maybe throw in a conjuncture, guys. When I say baseball, what's the first thought that comes to mind?
Hot dogs.
America.
Okay. Hot dogs, America.
Sunburn.
Babe Ruth. Oh, sunburn. That's what you think of, KY?
Yeah, man.
Well, you're out there in the sun. Okay. You know what? We can fix this in post. We'll fix this. I'll just do impressions of everyone, and we'll fix it in post.
What comes to mind is I'm going to put this on a Saturday afternoon while I'm hungover so I can fall asleep.
Okay. That's another good start. That's a good place to go. Absolutely. Baseball. Long been the all-American pastime. It is even bigger, some would say, in Japan, it's been a professional sport since about 1950. I am going to back up just a tad. It has not always been in Japan. Obviously, it originated here in the U.S. It was introduced to the Japanese by an individual by the name of Horace Wilson, who he is a Maine native. Some of us who live in the Northeast might know where that state is. Just saying.
Big state. It's a big state.
It's a big state. A lot of stuff going on up there.
A lot of mooses up here.
Yeah.
Whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, that too.
You got Moose, you got Stephen King, and you got this guy Horace.
You got Horace. You got good old Horace Wilson. He, obviously during the Civil War, he served with Union troops and fought in Louisiana. He came back, and in 1870s, he had the opportunity to go to Japan as kind of a professor, teach English. He decided the kids at the university he was at needed to have more physical fitness, so he taught them baseball, and this is where it originated from. So that is essentially where this sport started. It is on a similar trajectory to a lot of American sports that started out at a collegiate level before becoming what we have today, where obviously you have major sporting leagues. Same goes with baseball. It was primarily just something that kids played. It was collegiate. And out of this whole experience, some, 16 years later, become an actual professional league in Japan. But it is a massive, massive sport there. Some of MLB's most memorable players have actually come from Japan. Some American and...
Is that Babe Ruth? Babe Ruth, he's out of Japan?
No, no, he's not. Yep. That's close. You're close, though. You're totally close.
Because I thought, when I look at old pictures, I think, yeah, maybe, some heritage there. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, there could be some heritage there. Nothing says, like a fat... European-looking man says he's definitely from Japan. Yeah, Japan. That's what a lot of people would say. So good. Okay, this is off to a great start.
I love the thought of an old white dude from Maine screaming about lobsters and baseball to small Japanese children.
Yeah, you can just see him out there. You gotta run around the bases. You run around the bases. You go to all four.
Don't fucking stop. Don't stop. Just go around the base. They don't know.
What you can do is you can steal a bag. You can steal a bag. That means you steal a base. No, you're doing it wrong.
Touch a foot.
You're doing it wrong.
Touch a... What's foot? What's Japanese for foot?
I would absolutely imagine this individual as any dad at any batting cages you've ever been to in your life, where it's just the dad shouting the entire time. That's one. That's two. See, that's 3 strikes. Now you'd be out. Now you'd be out because you missed all 3. Just overbearing to their children.
That's why you have fucking disappointment and you're staying with your mother this summer.
That's right. Listen, Hisakara, you're fucking out, all right? Go sit, ride the pine. You know what that is? You guys got pine here? Go ride that pine, all right? Sit the fuck down. Your mother's very disappointed.
I gotta say, I was considering having the entire item about Horace Wilson. It is not. I think we have enough jokes to make an entire episode about Horace Wilson. That's what I'm noticing.
We're making fun of the wrong guy.
We can keep going.
No question.
My bad.
No question. So anyways, Horace Wilson is kind of the establishment there, and it starts spreading. Horace does eventually come back to the States. He himself is now a member of the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame, but so is the individual we're going to be speaking about this evening. This guy is even more of a man of the world himself. Matsutaro Shoriki is his name.
Ooh, can we get that one more time?
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Okay.
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Okay. Justin, write that down and hold it up on the Zoom.
I actually have it right here. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to burn through, yeah.
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Yeah. Matsutaro Shoriki. So
I know I'm not the only one who watches anime.
No, I've seen it. You know I'll get drunk and watch some anime. You know that'll happen.
Yeah, oh, it's a Gundam. Oh, that's me in every anime I've ever seen.
Yeah. What's Goku gonna do? Dang.
Oh, where's that green bro at? Where's Picky? Where's Pickle? Where's Pickleball at?
I've got Mr. Shoriki here on the pitcher mound, dressed up as C-3PO, throwing in the first pitch of the game.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Wait, What the fuck did you just say? I feel like I blacked out halfway through that. What?
If you've ever seen Japanese baseball, they do a lot of like goofy shit. Like they'll dress up, and like it's a big.
It's again, the fandom is insane, and the way they go. I can only compare this to the mania that is around soccer, or as they say, football, in England or in Europe. I mean, it is an absolutely massive thing they do. Their seasons are incredible, and as to Justin's point, they do a lot of random stuff. I mean, it's a lot of fandom of like. Whereas I would say I don't want to knock American baseball in any means, but the fandom is much more casual. You go, you have your hot dog. It's basically a picnic where people are running around on a grass somewhere. Okay. Japanese baseball is extremely intense. The manner in which they take this, it is to that note. Again, we now have up and comers in our own states here, and certainly other parts of the world, who will go to Japan to play there first before they break into the majors. We've had incredible players from Japan come over, most notably Ichiro Suzuki, who played for the Mariners for
Definitely
very long time. Yeah, Kyle knows exactly. Kyle was a huge Ichiro fan. I was a huge Ichiro fan.
I had the jersey, and they people would say, "Oh, who is that?" And I'd be like, "This person is my favorite baseball player." So
yeah, definitely.
Right. I would say those words.
You would say he's your favorite, and you got the sport right too when you said that. He's my favorite baseball player.
When he was playing for the Dallas Red Hawks. What is it? I don't know. You know,
that's one of those things. Context, we'll clean it up in post.
Yeah. I do want to tell the fans, I'm going to make a lot of jokes about not knowing anything about baseball, and none of it is exaggerated. I don't really like baseball. I think it's boring all the time. I think that this story is going to be 100% interesting, but I don't understand any references. I don't even know what RBI stands for. Literally, what does it stand for?
Runs batted in.
God damn it.
You got it.
Pay
man.
attention.
You got it. Runs batted in. So if you bat in a runner, obviously. So when you make
I'm already falling asleep. Here it goes.
Okay. All right. So Ichiro Suzuki, if you were a Cubs fan, you guys might have remembered that wonderful Cubs team in 2008 that we thought was going to make it, where they had Fukudome, who had that weird batting stance. Awesome player to watch. I know he broke a lot of hearts.
Couldn't break that curse.
Yeah. Dice K out in Boston. He was a pitcher there for many years. But there's a rich history, obviously, of now Japanese and American baseball relations. And two, as Justin pointed out, it is just a different experience over in Japan. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Justin, you've been to Japan and seen these games, right?
Yeah, so I lived in Japan I lived in Okinawa, which is, Okinawa is to Japan as Puerto Rico is to the United States. So it's quite a bit different, but big into baseball down there. There's baseball diamonds every fucking where, even on Okinawa. But maybe you can help me out with this. I know that the rules are slightly different, right?
Yeah, they vary on things, and then actually the ball size, there's a variance on that as well. So there's some minor differences, yeah.
I think one of the big things that I remember that I thought was just kooky as fuck is that if a foul ball goes into the stands, that's a home run. That
I am not sure on. If that's true, that would change the entire context of the game. I am not certain on that at all.
I'm not really sure. Like, are you trying to like put English on the ball as it comes in? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What would you?
I don't know. That's what I heard the last time I was.
Is that what you heard?
I heard that. Yeah,
is that what you heard? When you were wearing that was when you were wearing your Suzuki shirt, right?
That was my. I think I was wearing my Piccolo jersey.
Oh, you were wearing your Piccolo jersey. Yeah, man, with the weighted armor.
That one.
Yeah, too. For sure. Definitely.
Hadouken,
definitely.
You know.
So we're off to a swimming start here. We should have just made this about Horace. I'm gonna be honest with you. We should have just made this about Horace.
No.
I will say completely to Ryan's credit, I didn't know. So he mentioned that he was going to be doing Japanese baseball, and my eyes glazed over. But again, not because it's Ryan, but because it's baseball.
But because it's me. It's because it's me. Release the big cat tapes. Release the big cat tapes.
I was quite literally surprised to learn that American up-and-comers in the smaller A's, with smaller leagues, whatever they're called, that they go to Japan to get their start and all of that. Like, I knew... That's crazy. I mean, I don't know. That's wild news to me.
The South Korean League, we also have many South Korean players who come over here.
That's brand new information to my ears.
Yeah, the South Korean League. If you guys, I don't know if you guys, KY clearly did not, but if when we were starved for sports this summer, I don't mean to timestamp this podcast by any means. This summer we were in a lockdown and we didn't have sports leagues and baseball was delayed. They were airing Korean baseball, and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun to watch, but there were American players out there who had gone over there.
Like, I know, like for like a women's softball, Japan is the mecca for them. Like a lot of college. So this might sound creepy. I don't really give a fuck if it does or not. I love NCAA softball. I watch it every single year. I think it's one of the funnest sports to watch. It's different from baseball, in my opinion, where it's a little bit faster. And those girls fucking play.
There's 4 dimensions. There's 4 dimensions, too. That ball moves, yeah.
Yeah, they underhand pitching at 70 miles an hour, get fucked. That shit's hard as fuck. Anyways, the college girls, like when they're done, there's not a whole lot of options in the United States. Like there are professional softball leagues for them, but Japan, like that's the place, that's the mecca for them, and that's where a lot of really the top stars in NCAA softball end up going.
Wow, interesting. Okay, that would make sense because they have official leagues there. It's similar in that sense to we don't have again, I'll use another soccer reference. So for like female athletes who are soccer players, they will oftentimes go overseas to play as opposed to staying here because there's not necessarily as many options.
Right. They could be a professional athlete in Europe and abroad rather than here for something like soccer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly. So
also highlight, very similar. Very similar sport.
Very similar. Very similar. Absolutely. Okay. And we'll round back. So Shoriki was a man of many talents. He was just kind of a brief resume rundown on this individual. He started one of the major newspapers. That's where we're going to find him in this story. The Yomiuri Shimbun. I'm sure I mispronounced that. Please, if I mispronounce that, politely correct me via Twitter. Politely correct me. He was a prior police officer. He is a judo master. He was known as what's a 10th Dan. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that as well, which is a ranking in judo rankings that. Hey, dog, how you doing?
Just trying to do a motherfucking podcast here.
I know. There's not even anything happening.
Just mute your fucking microphone.
I'm gonna mute your dick in 2 seconds.
Which dog was that? It
was my dog. She's quiet. She saw the spray bottle.
I'm gonna pause for just a second so we can get just a
okay. Wow.
Yeah. We'll wait on you. We'll wait on your dog. We'll wait on your dog, Sean. That's fine. We'll do that.
It's already over. You guys are extending it. Okay.
Are we extending?
We'll just fix this in. We'll fix this in post.
Your mom's already over, so.
I'll fix your mom in post. These jokes are funny.
No.
Butthole
You'll
first.
fix her with a post.
Ooh.
Self burn.
Take that. I don't even know your mother's name.
Dude, this is unbelievable. You didn't know Japanese baseball. You don't know his mom's name. Do you know what I mean?
Where does it end? Where does my ignorance end?
Where does your ignorance end, bro? Where does your ignorance end?
Janet. Is that her name? Fuck
you. You need to go sit in the corner for a while and think about what you just said.
Let's do a fucking podcast now. Now that everyone's dog has taken a shit.
Everyone's dog has taken a shit. We are back. I am talking about Japanese baseball. Full disclosure, KY might not actually make it through this. He might just fill in with auto responses at some point. We'll see. Anyways, we were in the process of talking about Matsutaro Shoriki, who is just a man of the world himself. He prior to opening the newspaper, I gotta look this up again now that I'm thrown off about what we were doing here. We'll fix that in post. Matsutaro Shoriki, the Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper, major media outlet. He also much later, post-World War II, opened the Nippon Television Network Corporation. He was one of the founders there. Started out just kind of from humble upbringings in Japan. He became a police officer. He was known as being kind of hyper-aggressive. He was known as, again, as previously stated, he was a 10th Dan in the judo training, which is kind of a rarity. I guess he was, it was not unfound territory for him to take someone down using judo techniques. He left the police department after the Tournament incident, which is a attempted assassination that they had on the prince in Japan. Anyways, it kind of came down that it was one of those situations where it looked like the police work was kind of sloppy, and they were like, well, someone's got to take the fall, so he was one of the guys that got out of there. After that, he opens up the Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper organization. And from there, he is kind of on the rise. It's a very popular newspaper. There's another media outlet within Japan that certainly has its own precedence of coverage, so he's kind of rivals with them. He has proposed this idea in 1934 of having an all-star team of baseball players come to Japan. Shoriki, our hero in this case, is not like a super baseball fan. He played when he was a kid, but he doesn't really care. He does also understand it's great press for his paper to say they are the organization that brought major baseball players to Japan. And I want to preface this with another item. Baseball had been going to Japan prior to the 1934 World Tour that we're going to be talking about. But it had come in kind of different sizes. So you would have some kind of minor leaguers go over. You would have occasionally, like there was, some of the Giants had gone over and played. Apparently a lot of Japanese players who, again, this is more at a collegiate level when they're playing, felt that a lot of Americans were rude when they came over. And I only say that because at certain times when the Japanese players were batting, this
is going to be fucking good.
This is you can tell it's good. I'm already laughing. The American players, I guess, were sitting down on the field with the idea of like, well, they're not going to fucking hit it, so we might as well. Just unbelievably rude.
That is fucking funny. What an American thing to do.
Yeah, unbelievably intolerable. Like basically looking at them like, these guys can't hit shit. I'm going to sit down. I'm on the first base line. I don't move much anyways. This is fine. So,
well, it's like they're playing they think they're playing against like fucking T-ballers. Like, well, they
basically
can hit a steel ball, but they can't hit a moving ball.
Exactly. They're kind of disgusting with the rhetoric.
Yeah. And as a Japanese person, I think that Babe Ruth is probably very offended by that. So.
Yeah, he was totally offended. It's funny you bring that up. He was totally offended by that, except not at all. We'll get to him in just a second. Good segue. We'll clean that up in post. Good joke. Weird kind of transition here. The Japanese baseball players really respected the Negro League baseball players because they would show up and they would play legitimate games, and they did a great job. So that relationship was done extremely well. So there's Negro League players have a great fondness of Japan, and likewise, which is, I thought, a very cool, touching subject that they had there. But again, Americans apparently were assholes. You also had other stars. We come from we'll say we're near Detroit, where we live here, shooting this podcast. One of our local heroes, Ty Cobb, also went over with a couple others and quote-unquote trained baseball players in the actual art of playing baseball in the 1920s, I think it was 1928. So there is context to it happening. No one had ever thought, hey, we could get a full roster of major league players and bring them over to Japan to play.
So Big Cat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a timeline question. So, what's this nuts? The crazy Maynard guy, like, kind of introduced it generically in the late 1800s. You said
so about 1870s. Yeah.
So 1870s, and then now we're sort of into the 30s where they've been playing it at the collegiate level and everything too.
Yeah, so it had primarily been played in grade school and collegiate level. Again, the only reference I really have to kind of create anything that's similar to this is American sports. When they started, they were certainly played as juniors and certainly at collegiate level before becoming professional. And that's kind of where their baseball stance came from. They were primarily collegiate up until.
But it had been in country. It had been around, being played by somebody, some capacity for decades.
They had enough, decades and decades at this point. They had enough time to develop their game, understand the game, have an appreciation for it, and they had a huge affinity for the players in the U.S. So they were already familiar with most of the big players that were in the U.S. at this time. And certainly anytime the major players came over here, came over to Japan, they had knowledge of who that individual was. And it wasn't just like some random professional player that they weren't affiliated with or had no knowledge of. So anyways, Shoriki is given this proposal like, well, we could get the biggest players. And Shoriki is thinking to himself, okay, who are we talking about? And so who he's talking to basically states, well, we could get the babe over here. And Shoriki is like, I don't know, that's not gonna work. So he decides, okay, well, we'll try it. They go ahead and they try to contact Babe Ruth's people, and this is where I will segue, and we're going to talk a little bit about where Babe Ruth was at this time. Babe Ruth in 1934, he is in definitely the twilight of his career. He has been, he has effectively, I'm sorry, I just got distracted by this chat.
Sorry, Ryan.
I'm sorry.
No, I have it up, so I'm reading it as it's going. That's what I got to do. I got to block it out and just
you
talk
got to
about
block
me.
it out.
Just the thing I do best is just talk and listen to no one. That's what I do. That's what I do.
And for the fans, I would just want to make clear for other non-baseball fans, Babe Ruth is in fact not Japanese. So I don't want to confuse
it's probably
anybody.
good. It's probably good we gave that distinction now, so they didn't think that he was in Japan already. He was already in country. Yeah.
God, I'm fucking ruining this immediately.
Babe Ruth, who played for the New York Yankees in the United States of America, most famous baseball player on the planet at this point. I just want to drive that home for people who might be on the podcast and at home, people who are on the podcast in the Northeast at this time. On the podcast in the Northeast at this time. Babe Ruth is again twilight of his career. His contract has just effectively ended with the Yankees. They're not picking him back up. He is with his second wife, Claire. She is responsible essentially for kind of cleaning up his habits. Little bit of background on Babe Ruth. When he started with the Boston Red Sox, he rose to prominence actually during World War I, because that's when he started getting a chance to hit, because players were going overseas to serve. And his career went from there. Obviously, the great curse with Babe Ruth, where he is traded to the New York Yankees. And that's where he has this long, fabled career. So he is trying to figure out, what am I going to do? But he is largely the most popular man on the planet. He has signed a contract to go to Hollywood and shoot pictures. Quote unquote, as he says, pictures. I'm shooting pictures. These are
I'm going to be in the fucking picture shows.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm going to be in the pictures. We're going to shoot movies. It's going to be fantastic. Oh, it's going to be great.
Just dropping cigar ash on a bunch of orphans as he talks. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Silver screen. Yeah.
He was a man. Babe Ruth was notorious for his lifestyle. So with his first wife, many affairs. Heavy drinker to the point where it started affecting his actual playing ability on the field. Many a days when you're showing up kind of hungover to play. Married Claire. She made this kind of public announcement of, I'm going to change him. I'll clean things up. It's going to be fine. She controlled his life. And KY, you might know this because you're married. Controlled his life even to his bedtime, where he had to go to bed at about 10 p.m.
I mean, when Babe Ruth was like 30 years old, he already had like a fat, like pudgy, alcohol-induced face.
Yeah. Oh my God, he lived life to the most extreme. So when we talk baseball at this time, when we think baseball today, we might think these guys lift a lot of weights and have athleticism. Baseball at this time is our traditional. Honestly, quite frankly, the only reason this is the all-American sport. You can be a total fat alcoholic slob, and you could be the best fucking player on the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is no. It's purely just a finesse. It's your touch, how you play the game. It is not you don't train for this. And Babe Ruth, by all means, had the fucking talent. He just showed up, and it was pure 100%. I'm gonna do this thing fucking wild. Let's get here.
All those pictures you see of Babe Ruth, like sitting there at the plate, bat at the ready. He's 35 years old, and he looks like he's 80.
Yeah. He's mid-30s, and he just looks fucking just tethered. The man is in horrible shape.
To draw a parallel so that some of our listeners who don't know what this would look like, imagine Ben Affleck from the 1990s to Ben Affleck now. That's what alcoholism does to a person.
Let's not attack Ben Affleck.
I love Ben Affleck. He's just fucking shot out from his alcoholism. That's his fucking problem. He's got a face the size of 6 golf balls.
He did Batman. He got super buff, and then maybe we let ourselves go a little bit in there. He did put on some pudge there. We did see that. A little bit. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Ben Affleck always strikes me as someone who he gets in really good shape for roles. Never stops smoking though.
Never stops smoking. He doesn't. No. You actually, if you look up, Ben, I don't mean to call you out, dude. You're so cool. You seem like a super duper guy. I'm going to call you out though. There are unfortunately paparazzi photos that are not pleasant where he's walking down the street with a cigarette and a Gatorade, like recovering from a workout.
Yeah. Just got to open these lungs back up, get a couple fucking heaters in here. Just gonna suck them down real quick.
So anyways, that was a great segue from Ben Affleck to Babe Ruth. So I'm going to jump back on that.
Just another low ratings KY coming in. You know?
Another low ratings KY. Wow. Yeah. Not a lot of self-esteem. Give us some shout-outs to KY. Give us some shout-outs to KY on Twitter.
KY, you suck. Okay, continue with the story.
Because I also definitely remembered that we had a Twitter. So give us some shout-outs on Twitter. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
No one has found us on Twitter. We forget about Twitter. So.
We forgot about the Twitter. I will find you on Twitter, though. You can take that.
Just so we're clear, anyone who's listening, we came up with we brainstormed a couple of how do we describe our podcast? And one of the first things that got written down was painfully white. That is still our Twitter thing, by the way.
I should probably change that. Again, we might have forgotten. But we are painfully white, but I did also forget that we had a Twitter.
It isn't inaccurate as much as it probably doesn't need to be on there.
Yeah, I think it's obvious just how we talk and what we talk about.
Yeah. So, Shoriki, after a long, painful kind of journey of back and forth with Babe Ruth's people, is able to organize this big event where you have American All-Stars going to Japan to play. Keep in mind, 1934, to give some context there is high, tumultuous relations going on. There is a naval pact between Britain, the U.S., and Japan that is failing at this time. Japan themselves have engaged themselves with the Manchurian invasion in 1931. You have the rise of kind of ultra-nationalist groups in Japan. It is kind of right on the cusp of collapse of what they have, essentially. And again, Shoriki thought to himself, hey, this is going to be great for my paper. The folks in the U.S., certainly working with baseball side, thought this could be a really great diplomatic gesture. So, really, on top of the fandom that came with this was a sincere attempt at trying to find some way they can hold hands across the aisle here. So in November of 1934, the plan was for a month-long excursion with some of U.S. baseball's best players at the time. You had Earl Averill from the team in Cleveland. You had Lou Gehrig, who at this time was undoubtedly the best player in the world, playing for the New York Yankees. You had the Tigers' own Charlie Gehringer. You had Lefty Gomez. You had their manager, Cornelius McGillicuddy, also known as Connie Mack, who was the manager of the Philadelphia Athletics. You had Jimmy Fox. You had unknown individual by the name of Mo Berg, who I'll circle back to and I'll talk about in just a second. And you had our favorite, Babe Ruth. They left late October on a ship for Japan. There are some really just indulgent photos of Babe Ruth in Vancouver as he's leading on the Empress of Japan going to Japan. He's loving it. He is absolutely loving it.
Yeah, he showed up to the ship blackout drunk.
Yeah, and was just really enjoying the fact that everyone fucking loved him. This is a man who sincerely enjoyed fandom, okay? By all means, was actually supposed to be very good to fans. And there's a small tidbit that I'll talk about later where he is super duper.
Well, there's a million Babe Ruth signed baseballs still floating around. Babe Ruth existed decades and decades and decades ago, and he is still talked about to this day. As far as he might be, if you were to look back at famous people from sports, he might be the oldest famous person from sports that we still talk about to this day.
And I would say that's absolutely correct, because he came about in exactly the right time where you had the rise of radio, so he became a sports star. Radio needed stars to sell when they were pitching sports. And certainly Babe Ruth, being the greatest player for the Yankees, arguably the biggest team at the time, was the way to go about it. And Babe Ruth was right fucking there. I mean, he was the top dog. So at this time, his contract is massive, and he has just been cut by the Yankees. He will go on the year after. He'll play 1 year with the Boston Braves, but that is short-lived, and he does retire. He does end up kind of just becoming his own socialite in his own right. But anyways, he's on this boat. He goes to Japan. When they arrive in Tokyo, they are greeted by 500,000 fans.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
It's a lot of fucking people.
This is a month-long tour. They play in numerous cities in Japan, and I just want to list off a few. They visited, obviously Tokyo being the largest location they visited, but they also had, and they visited, they had 3 stints in Tokyo. They were there from the 3rd to 4th, the 10th to 11th, and the 17th. Yokohama, they also visited. They visited Shizuoka, Osaka, Kyoto, Nagoya, Toyama, Amiya, Hakodate, Sendai, and Kokura. I'm mispronouncing that. But anyways, it was a long event ending in the beginning of December. So they arrived there the 3rd. They're loving it. Babe Ruth is not like necessarily great friends with Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig is kind of taking his starlight at that point. They're not super close. But in public, obviously, they're acting very chummy with one another. They get there. They are assigned to one of the best hotels in Tokyo. And they start playing basically like the next day. They show up and they're on the field. Shoriki, our hero, has organized some of the best individuals in Japanese collegiate play to come out and play against this team. So he has found the best pitchers he can find, best hitters, saying, okay, we're going to put on like a great excursion. This is going to be incredible. This will be totally awesome. And they basically do this. It's a quote-unquote barnstorming event where they just show up. They're going to play these matches. It's a huge publicity event. Shoriki has already felt as though he has won this entire event, saying, look, my paper, myself, we brought Babe Ruth to Japan. We brought him here. To this day, in Japan, there is such an affinity for Babe Ruth that there are still 2 stadiums in practical use that are distinguished because they are 2 stadiums that Babe Ruth actually played in. So while Babe Ruth was huge here, it is just as big in Japan.
Wow, that's crazy. That's really crazy.
Yeah, they get there. They start playing these games. Lou Gehrig, again, who was definitely probably the best in the world at the time. You have Babe who's enjoying this. There's a story of the first night when Babe gets there. He has 2 men show up to his apartment in kimonos. They pull out baseballs and he goes, oh, well, of course I'll sign them. And they pull out an additional 40 baseballs from their kimonos and he signs all of them. So Babe Ruth is basically like, oh yeah, I'll sign. Oh, I didn't know you had this many. Why do you? Oh my God. Okay, here we go. I'll just sign.
Did kimonos even have pockets in them? Where the fuck are you keeping
I don't know
all those things?
Right next to your dick. You keep the baseballs next to your dick. That's what I'm assuming. Babe didn't care. Someone loves me. So here we are. I'm signing this stuff. His wife, Babe was fortunate enough, he actually took his wife and his daughter, so they were there accompanying him on the trip. Shoriki is in love with this idea. This is perfect. This is as easy as it gets. My paper's going to be the biggest in the world. Again, I have the biggest baseball players in the world playing with me. They took another individual with them, as I mentioned, Mo Berg, who was a catcher. He was the catcher. Not really, kind of a journeyman catcher. Not really an all-star by any means. He had kind of a lifetime 240 average. Wasn't necessarily that great. Obviously, you don't need a great batting average if you're a catcher. That's more of a defensive spot anyways. But
Right.
Yeah. Kyle knows all of this. KY actually played catcher, I believe. A little bit.
He plays catcher all right.
He dabbled in it a little bit.
Yeah. My biggest issue is the knees. And the umpire kept rubbing his cup on my back, so I had to stop. Yeah.
That wasn't his cup.
Here's the thing. That first item you just stated, that is a real issue with catchers. They always complain about their fucking knees going. That is why if you're good at hitting, you leave catcher. You leave that position entirely.
That's the only thing I know about catchers is it looks fucking uncomfortable the entire
it's uncomfortable as fuck, yeah.
But you watch like a game, they're always like taking time out to stretch their knees out.
Yeah.
And then they make pads for them now. Probably didn't have them back then. They have pads that go behind the knee.
But you still got to walk around and stretch the knees out after all this. Yeah. Oh, totally. Okay, so anyways, he was a Yale University grad, a Columbia Law grad. He spoke upwards of 16 languages, Moberg.
What are you doing, dude?
Yeah, what are you doing? But this was the life you could live in the 1930s. You could be a professional ball player and still have this background. He is largely on this trip. It is theorized he was on this trip as doing early spy work. Moberg had previously been to other countries to spread the brand. When he went to Russia, he took a 16mm camera and he wanted to just photograph for his own right Lenin's tomb. They actually confiscated that film. There's like numerous incidents of him being a total tourist and just taking photos of things you're not supposed to take photos of. So he has taken a 16mm camera with him on the days that they are off, it sounds pretty. They had a lot of time off, is what it sounds like, despite it just being a month. They were able to kind of indulge in what was going on. So if you look up online, there are photos of like Babe Ruth, Gehrig, Averill, all these guys kind of just getting together, looking very uncomfortable in Japanese restaurants, trying to order food and eat. They're not sure what the hell's going on. If there's ever photos of white men who are unclear of what's happening around them, those are the textbook photos you would find on that particular issue.
I got to tell you, as an American that lived in Japan, and that lived in a lot, and I not just Japan, but like a lot of Southeast Asia, finding food that satiates the American appetite is extremely fucking difficult because you never know what the fuck you're ordering. It's always some weird shit, and there's no explanation. There was a hotel I stayed at in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, and they had an American menu, and they had this ham and cheese sandwich on there, and I would always eat this ham and cheese sandwich for lunch. Apparently, Asian cuisine does not account for the handling of cheese, and anyway, long story short, I ended up developing a serious infection in my lower intestines.
Oh my God.
That put me in the Bangkok hospital for a week, shitting my brains out.
Holy wow. Oh my God.
So I can totally empathize with these guys, these American baseball players who had probably never even heard about Japan, going over there and trying to figure out what the fuck do I eat.
Exactly right. So Justin is suffering this, and this is in the modern context of the last 20 years. These guys, the 30s, I'm assuming, as Justin just pointed out, they knew nothing. There are actually accounts that Babe Ruth did not know they played baseball in Japan until he was receiving notices to go over and play.
So he's like Kaya. He's like KY right now. He
was basically like, what, does he play baseball in Japan? That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's cool. I'm not going to do it though. That's stupid.
Yeah,
but that's
how do
cool.
How do they get the balls over there that we use here? Do they ship them? They don't ship them that far. They don't go that far. No, they don't go that
Someone
far.
throw them? They don't throw them.
Do they got whiskey over there? Because I'll go if they got whiskey.
I'll go if they, yeah.
Oh, they got whiskey.
I'll bring my own fucking cigars. All right.
What's sake? You said sake?
Is it booze? I'll take the booze. We'll do the booze. Let's go.
Is it booze? Is it women? Is it tobacco? I'll be there. Okay.
I'll be there.
They got women.
Those are the three staple diets. Am I right? Yeah.
He was as most of these early ball players were. They were absolutely fucking poster boys in any magazine for any tobacco or whiskey.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to go to the I mean, and you guys have seen them. We quite frankly, in our childhood, do you remember all the Camel ads and seeing celebs smoking or whatever? So very much the same idea with these guys who, as it was pointed out earlier, Babe Ruth was probably the first major sports athlete in the U.S. So if you could get him to endorse something, you would absolutely take it. And Babe Ruth indulged in all the fucking vices.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Babe Ruth without a fat dip in his mouth.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Him and Mickey Mouse. That's all I remember.
Well, I mean,
Wow, weird.
Where do you remember this from?
Mickey Mouse doing the fat dip, Steamboat Willie. Yeah, it was right there.
Yes, Steamboat Willie. Lot of alcohol, a lot of tobacco in Steamboat Willie. I think what we know about Steamboat Willie is you only became a mouse after you were doing You were doing some serious
Well,
dips.
they sent engineers over from Philip Morris to make that cartoon. Actually,
yeah, they did. They definitely did. Yeah, and it came with cancer, so it was really good.
So to
no one knew how Disney died. I'm telling you,
we
they
do
froze
know.
him
Yeah, well, they froze him, so he's not dead. He'll come back. Well, Disney, if you hear this, come join us. Come join us on the LKP, man. So
back to it, Ryan. Sorry.
Jumping right back on. They are over there. They're having a great time. We were talking about Mo Berg. Mo leaves many a times at night as they're kind of doing their own thing. He leaves in a disguise, which makes no sense, really, because a lot of these guys really endorsed the celebrity lifestyle they were having there. He goes to a local hospital, to St. Luke's, which is a hospital in Tokyo at the time, and says he's going to visit an ambassador's daughter who is there being hospitalized. He never checks in and sees her. He goes to the top floor, goes to the roof, and with his 16mm camera, takes shots of all of Tokyo. This is widely considered an espionage effort.
For sure.
For U.S. that has very little context of what, this is what I kind of found interesting, was very little context of Tokyo's layout, essentially. They had no real understanding of how the city was formatted. So he took these early photos. I just want to dive in and talk about Mo Berg's story because this is interesting enough in its own right. Again, we're talking about this whole tour. I will get back to our hero Shoriki in just a minute. Mo Berg, when he finishes his baseball career, which was, again, shorter lived, he was kind of a journeyman, he goes into the OSS. As we all know, as every single one of your history teachers in high school has told you, the OSS was a predecessor of the CIA. And in World War II, he works for the OSS. He serves in Europe. He actually goes back, serves post-war. He comes back, and this was kind of an odd story. I don't know what it was necessarily. I tried looking into this, but he is broke for whatever reason and moves in with his sibling. He just becomes kind of one of those rambling people who talks about his glory days of working in the OSS and saving America and playing baseball. Does nothing professionally for the rest of his life. Lives out the rest of his life basically freeloading from a sibling.
It's kind of crazy. And to maybe this adds context. I have big knowledge and background in like spycraft and foreign affairs. OSS, you talked about this guy Shoriki developing a newspaper. You talked about Mo Berg going over there and taking pictures. OSS, they really prided themselves, well, maybe not prided themselves, but the majority of the intel that they collected, the platforms of which they collected it, were from human intelligence. So it says from, debriefing people who have traveled overseas, like Mo Berg. And then another big development that happened prior to World War II and during World War II was what's called open source intelligence, where they would take newspaper articles from all over the world, and I think this maybe is a tie to Shoriki, newspaper articles from all over the world, and they would take the information out of them, and they would build dossiers on places and individuals. And a very interesting story in World War II, where the British open source intelligence folks were taking newspaper clippings from German news sources and feeding them to psychologists, and they actually made an almost perfect identification of the way Hitler thought and behaved, like down to a psychological level, just based on the newspaper clippings that they received and dialogue from his speeches that he gave. So I think that's kind of relevant to what we're talking about today. Shoriki with the newspapers, American interest overseas, this guy Mo Berg taking pictures.
Undoubtedly, there was connection. It is essentially now just kind of established that Mo Berg was on this trip as essentially a plant of some kind to go and do these items for the government, and then certainly had the background to work for the OSS, speaking 16 languages and certainly a couple of high-level degrees.
And maybe not even a plant. I know that, one of the things that the government will do is they'll look out for people who are going to go on foreign travel, who might have access to information that they want, and they'll approach them and debrief them at the end.
Well, only reason I say Plant is because he was such a mediocre player. Like there was literally no contact.
Well, and he did end up working with the OSS afterwards, right?
Yes, yeah. So but quite frankly, that would have been in. We are looking at. I do think that government certainly had a hand in putting him on the tour, but to say they had the foresight of going into World War II that we would be attacked, I don't think they had any foresight there.
Probably not.
And then I don't think they had any foresight in forming a group like the OSS. So I think there was loose ideas of, hey, we should gather intelligence on these people because, as we recall previously, as stated, the tensions between the U.S. and Japan are building. It is boiling. It is getting to a boiling point out here. So the joke against Mo was he can speak 16 languages, can't hit a ball in any of them. So
poor guy. Wow.
I love that joke.
This guy serves. It's such a old timey joke too. I fucking love that.
It's a good joke. It's a solid, clean joke.
A deep burn.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you guys think that when Mo was in the OSS and he's doing all this war hero shit after all this, that he's just showing everybody he meets his picture of him and Babe, being like, "Hey, you guys want to see the picture of me and Babe? We're pretty close. We play on the same team." So
Babe and I. That's the other thing. Granted, Babe Ruth kind of died early World War II. There's got to be some context where he was trying to live up that fame. I keep thinking Mo was trying to live up that fame at some point. It's like
had to be.
Did I tell you when I went to Japan with the Babe?
The Babe.
Did I tell you about the Babe?
Oh, dude, he has to be. I met Larry the Cable Guy one day when I was a teenager, and I still talk about that shit. You know what I mean?
God, I've heard that so many fucking times.
Shout out to Larry. Shout out to Larry the Cable Guy. Good on him. Good on him.
I'm just thinking of Mo in like the OSS during World War II. He's in like some security meeting. He's got like all these details. He's like, "Oh, guys, the Nazis are they're gonna attack here at this date and this time," and it doesn't happen. And then like all of his buddies are like, "Hey, Mo, another swing and a miss, huh?"
Oh,
just busting his balls the whole time.
Yeah.
Missing Mo out here. Jesus Christ, the guy can't swing on anything.
Yeah, he's got like no RBIs. Am I right, guys?
Wow.
And RBI stands for what was that again?
Rolls, bunted inward. What is it?
Okay. We'll fix that in post.
Yeah, that's
100%
correct. That's okay.
That is. There's nothing to fix there, Big Cat. There's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave it. That's fine. That's good. A lot of people come to this one. They come to us for the facts. That's what they do.
What they love about me specifically is my sports knowledge. So
yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Yeah,
well,
that's
yeah.
Yep.
And you have a separate sports podcast, lesser known sports. Sports.
KY is our sports guy.
Lesser known sports with Kyle.
Our sports guy.
It's mostly highlight.
Yeah. He does a lot of the Iron Nut Championships that go on, where it's people just kicking each other nuts over and over again.
All right. We got off track too much, man. I'm sorry.
Beautiful segue.
That's a professional podcast right there. That's a professional podcast move. Keep that in mind.
I'm taking notes.
Back pocket that. Yeah. Everything on the baseball and on the podcast. Taking notes out here.
I already forgot all of it.
Okay. That's fine too. So that was Mo Berg. That was his legacy essentially. Shoriki is enjoying this whole trip. It's going well. They move as a giant motorcade. Again, the fans come out in droves to see these guys as they were greeted with 500,000 upon arrival. Babe is absolutely loving this whole lifestyle and getting to do all this stuff and the showmanship that goes with it. They play a big game in Tokyo, essentially kind of where their like base camp is. And they're out on the field. Shoriki is out there as well. Shoriki is surprise attacked by an individual who gets out into Shoriki's kind of press box area, who comes from the War Gods Society, which is one of the ultranationalist groups. He pulls out a katana sword and slashes at Shoriki, leaving Shoriki with a 16-inch scar from the attack. The attacker is taken down. Yeah. So again,
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Dude, it's honestly so nuts.
Going back again, keep in mind Shoriki's history here. He was kind of a tough guy to begin with. He was this cop. He was this hard-nosed, kind of by-the-books person. He's the master judo aficionado. But he is attacked. An ultranationalist at this time, the War Gods Society, is upset that there are any foreigners playing on this particular baseball field. They are upset with any foreigners coming into country. Without going into too much context, obviously Japan at that time had some pretty severe sentiments towards anyone coming in, kind of the height of imperialism, certainly towards the 1900s, or American imperialism, I guess. And so there is some serious resentment, and he gets attacked, survives, recovers, and then continues with his tour with his guys. So just kind of a fucking journeyman. Shoriki is, again, he has also, as I just want to allude to some of the other players he has found, Japan doesn't have a bunch of scrubs for their side. Shoriki and his team have essentially put together these really incredible Japanese baseball players at the collegiate level, one of which is a pitcher by the name of Eiji Sawamura.
No more Americans sitting on the ground is what you're saying.
Yeah, no more Americans sitting on the ground. They realized this guy's the real fucking show. I'm sure Babe Ruth wanted to sit down. He was an old man at this time. Well, just he was out of shape at this time. As he was most of his career.
He had alcohol knees is his biggest problem.
Alcohol knees is a serious. If you've ever played Operation, alcohol on the knees is definitely one of the things you're trying to remove from your little guy.
I think Connor's dad suffers from the same thing.
I know my dad does as well. Certainly, he'll complain about like some sores he has from running, and I go, no, I think you just drank a lot last night.
Yeah, it was the 2 bottles of wine, Pop. I love you so much, but you got to cool it.
I know my dad's got alcohol in the knees. He's dead, but whatever.
Jesus Christ.
What? Why'd that make you uncomfortable?
I know that bullet was in the chamber. I know that bullet was in the chamber when we were going there.
The pause after he said, I know my dad has it. We were like,
you all knew. Look, it's my own dead dad. I can make jokes about him all I want.
No, he's right. He's right. You can't argue with him on this.
I'm so happy that you and the real doll girlfriend he had are getting closer upon his death.
Oh my god! And
the doll? Is the doll here?
Oh, I was gonna ask my brothers about him. Like, where is that go? Was it buried with him? Or if it's not, burn it.
It's his lady.
Well, you can marry a doll. I mean, they do live forever, so they can live in the tomb. That to me feels like a mummification process. Do you know what I mean? There's a world in the afterlife you need these items for.
Can you imagine going into a crypt and there's a real doll sitting in the corner with her mouth open?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a pharaoh sex doll. I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah. So we were talking about alcohol knees. Trying to get us fucking. How do we walk back this one?
We were gonna, and so I'm gonna. The way I get out of anything in this story is I'll bring up Babe Ruth again, and his alcoholism. So,
yep.
Anyways, the Americans are taking it very seriously. Sawamura, the pitcher, is fantastic. He's out there and he's actively striking out these American players. He actually even strikes out Babe Ruth, and it feels like a very big kind of moment for Japanese baseball. Like they feel as though they've won. This team later on becomes the Yamamura Giants, which was the first professional team. And when our guy Shoriki starts professional baseball in 1949, so well after World War II, just a few years, they are one of the first teams that are brought into that particular group. Our pitcher, just a side note on who he becomes, obviously with the onslaught of World War II, Eiji Sawamura serves in Japan, has this proclamation that he absolutely hates Americans. He says, yeah, I'd love to play in America someday and play at that high level, and not just in some exhibition like I played against Babe Ruth, but really play against him. Problem is, I hate America. I hate their food. I hate all this other stuff. He does die in World War II. There is some like legacy that he was so good at throwing grenades because he was a pitcher in baseball.
No.
Yeah. So that is Sawamura's story.
Could I ask a question maybe of Justin here? If you were, say, standard issue lining up against other folks and you knew kind of when you were in grenade throwing territory, is that like what, 50 yards?
50 yards. Holy shit.
I don't know. I have no context. 25 yards, something, maybe.
Well, you take 25 and divide that and multiply that by 3, so 75 feet. I don't know, maybe
75 feet. So if you could be a football field away, and they're like, "All right, we're coming up on the Japanese. Be careful," and then a fucking grenade just drops at your feet from this guy launching a rocket.
I'd be pissed.
Drilling a rocket down the field. Yeah, just Joe Montana for days out here. Yeah.
Well, let's think about this. Your average, today's grenades, you've got a 3 to 5 second fuse, which, by the way, 3 to 5 seconds when you're fucking around with grenades is a long time, especially with like mass-produced lowest bidder grenades. That I'm sure
we can't get into the what is it, the kind of the industrial complex that goes into fighting wars, but I'm sure you do not want the lowest bid fucking grenades on your hands.
Oh well, we got them, but yeah.
Oh my god! Sorry. So he may be throwing them so far that they would go off before they hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, again, this is kind of like folklore tale about an individual who was a war hero in Japan, a war hero to Japan. So again, just to close out our tour, it does finish. They do play another, despite as Japan is kind of getting more and more tumultuous, they do think it's a huge success. You still had a lot of people back in the States saying this was a great effort for diplomacy. It finishes out. Shoriki is happy with the end result. The group, all the guys, they go to Shanghai, they play a game. Then they go to Manila and they play a game. And then most of them go home. Babe Ruth takes another 4 months on his tour. And he just continues to travel westward. So he is taking the longest way to get back to the U.S.
Oh my god. He's literally drinking himself across the world.
He's just drinking himself across the world. He's having the best fucking time. And so he rides out into the fucking sunset. In the onset of war, as we eventually do come to war with the Japanese, we are attacked. We declare war on the Japanese. Shoriki does become classified as a Class A war criminal for the Second World War. And he serves 21 months in prison.
Yeah, that ain't much.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's nothing.
Is this some like Bridge on the River Kwai shit? Like he got taken in and was like worked as like a prisoner of war?
Basically, well, it's funny you bring that up. He is released in 1947, and they basically say he was brought in not as a threat, but as an ideological and political nature. So they just who the guy is.
So he was arrested by the Japanese.
No, by U.S. forces at the time.
Oh, okay.
Like simply because he owned a newspaper and had.
Yeah,
social influence,
if you think about it, he is in all contexts. He's very pragmatic. It's not like he wants to ruin any relations because he's a businessman. Quite frankly,
he organized this whole thing. Money.
Yeah, he's probably as apolitical as anyone's going to get. It's not like he had very severe sentiments one way or the other. He did express, obviously, he wants Japan to win the war, whatever. But it was never kind of going out and actively playing a hand in the war effort. So. That ends. He starts the Japanese Atomic Energy Commission. I guess at this point, why the fuck not?
Right.
He also, at one point, before that, as television becomes popular, as previously stated, he starts the Nippon Television Network Corporation, which is still, to my knowledge, going today, or is in some form today. So this is a true man of feats. He dies in 1969 in Atami, and he is now to this day in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and they actually award a Matsutaro Shoriki award, given only the person who contributes the most to Japanese baseball.
Okay, so that's cool. So he's memorialized for the baseball, maybe not for the war crime stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, less for the war crime stuff, more for the baseball side.
Yeah.
So going back to our picture, many of the Japanese were big fans of Babe Ruth, and certainly after when World War II started, they're kind of in this conundrum of having a hero who is from the country that they are now fighting a war in. So the title Banzai Babe Ruth became a battle cry for Japanese soldiers on the battlefield. They would scream that before charging.
What would they scream?
Banzai Babe Ruth.
To hell with the Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
right?
basically to hell with Babe Ruth. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say.
So in some context, they would actually just say to hell with Babe Ruth. So you could hear in your dumb English ears what they're saying. But anyways, that's where the title of this particular book comes from, and that's where kind of that the really irony of the whole scenario comes from, where someone you admired so much he becomes your battle cry.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it seems like, you know, with 500,000 people greeting them as they come into Nippon, and they're just now it's turned just a decade later to fuck you, to hell with Babe Ruth, to hell with the American icon Babe Ruth. That's crazy.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it again, without going into too much Japanese history, when they did eventually fully transition and became this kind of quasi-fascist entity under their military and their monarchy they again, anything that was even American related was, you know, considered the enemy, and in that case, no bigger enemy than someone who they found
like the biggest American celebrity at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like, that sounds so crazy. Like, imagine being like an American soldier in World War II and hearing that, you know, no, fuck you, Babe Ruth. And like you try to put that into context now. It like Justin, like you hear like the Taliban or something saying like, "Oh, fuck you, Tom Cruise." Like as they're coming at you.
I mean, fuck you, Tom Cruise. Fuck you, Tom Cruise wouldn't like offend me at all.
Like, wait, okay, who?
Yeah,
is Tom Cruise here?
Fuck you, Tom Cruise, and then literally everyone on the battlefield is like, do we shoot them or do we praise them? I'm not sure.
Wait a second. Hey, hang on. We're not mad about that.
We're not.
See what they say back.
That.
That's fine with us. I thought you were say fuck Tom Brady, and I was going to be like, that's true too.
Yeah. If someone screamed "fuck Tom Brady" while they were invading, I'm like, "Come in, sir.
Hey,
Welcome."
Get this guy a Budweiser. Am I right, guys?
Go Birds.
Budweiser. Nothing fills you up, never lets you down. Budweiser.
Nothing tells you to fuck off Tom Brady like a Budweiser.
Like a Budweiser. Budweiser, official sponsor of the LKP podcast.
We're
working our way there.
We're working on it. Budweiser, reach out to us. That's
Gotta find whatever fucking German company bought Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. If they want me to dress up like a Clydesdale, I'll fucking do it. All right? Tell me you need it done. It will be done.
Sean is pretty much 2 hooves away from being a Clydesdale already.
Yeah. He's just I can't even make a joke. Just see you with a bit in your mouth. Hey, where's my fucking paycheck? All right. You know what? Give me. I want half the money now. I'll put it in my fucking girdle. All right. Just where's the fucking money?
Give me half the money up front. The
worst part is we're doing it, you know, on Zoom, so I'm doing this all to myself, and then I'm hanging the reins up off camera, and it's gonna look like someone's got a horse on it, you know. Woo, it's gonna be a good time.
What a ride!
Hey, that's what they say.
Sean already does poop while he's walking, so he's pretty much.
They don't call me the magic carpet ride for nothing.
That's showbiz. He knows the game. Dress me like a fucking Clydesdale. That's fucking showbiz.
For real though, Budweiser, just get a hold of us.
Yeah, just get a hold of us. It would be great for your stuff.
Yeah, we haven't even done a single Pornhub plug yet.
No, we haven't done a single.
If you need me to dress like a Clydesdale, you know where to go, baby.
Pornhub. If you're into Clydesdale porn, Pornhub.
I guess that's probably the bigger question. Who has more Clydesdales, Pornhub or Budweiser?
Oh, definitely Pornhub.
Oh,
definitely Pornhub. That's not even a fucking question.
There's so many years of Budweiser, though.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, there's just it's so easy to access horse porn. Do you know what I mean?
I'm gonna look up. I'm looking up horse porn right now.
Don't do it. Oh my god.
But J Money, could you before the horse porn? If you could insert the horse porn into the synopsis, that would be great.
Well, I have a question. Do you think our hero, I'm sorry, say his last name, is it
Shoriki?
Shoriki. He went from kind of standard issue badass cop kind of guy who kind of seemed like he was kind of a rough customer, maybe. Yeah. Maybe a little rough on the folks.
Yeah.
To then go into newspaper mogul.
Real American, that.
He was very American about his policing.
Yes, he was.
He was. I mean, he goes from fucking hip tossing everybody he sees on the street and beating him with a fucking
judo flip, judo flip, judo flip. You with the fruit stand, I'm about to flip you, motherfucker. Get over here. Yeah.
Hey, you double parked right here. You trying to get judo flipped? You double parked.
Fucking hip tosses a car. Hey, nope, no parking here. Sorry. Fucking take it somewhere else.
He was supposed to be one of those, like you said, kind of hard-nosed guys who, I mean, supposedly, like, really didn't have much of a sense of humor. People would try to make jokes or whatever, and he just, like, wasn't laughing.
Hip toss.
Yeah. Is that a joke? Are you laughing? Hip toss, hip toss, hip toss.
Hip toss, hip toss, hip toss in the cane machine. Boom, you're done. But to go from cop, and I'm not going to say disgraced cop, only because I don't know about that whole thing and why he left and all that, to, like, newspaper mogul is, like, it's like, imagine if Richard Branson was, like, a bad cop. Or like a tough cop, even. Like, he was a fucking Bruce Willis kind of guy, and his teeth weren't made of corn. Also that, so.
The context they get... Teeth were not made of corn. His teeth were also not made of corn. The context they gave to that was basically he had left, and he had this affinity for kind of starting a business and going into media, and so he had, I guess, somehow kind of gathered enough sources to do so, because he kind of had to cut into the... I mean, he started at, like, the lowest ring you can think about in an actual paper press to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not a cop in Japan if you come from a wealthy family. You're a standard dude who is going to make a career out of it, right? And give your kids better than you had.
Yeah, he had pretty modest beginnings. And then obviously went into policing because he just had a desire to do so.
Wanted to fucking
judo flip people.
Yeah.
Judo flip. I'm 10th Dan. Could you imagine just yelling at someone, I'm a 10th Dan, you motherfucker?
Yeah, and they just like, so
you're
sorry,
right. I'm sorry. Let me get on my knees.
Yeah.
Flip me.
I will pick up my litter. Hands up, don't toss. Hands up, don't toss. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It made me think, like, even though he's been in newspaper business for a long time, he's organized all this baseball, he's moved on from being a cop. I just feel like when that fucking nationalist guy pulls the katana out at him, he's just like, what are you gonna do? Stab me? And then the guy fucking cuts him. I just imagine him calling his bullshit. Yeah, it's just like, nah, dude, you're too much of a bitch to stab me. And then the guy's like, nah, I'm gonna cut you anyway.
They did. I mean, the accounts were he did have to get medical treatment at a hospital afterwards. They had to kind of rush him to it, but it's not like he was like panicking or anything. Supposedly, so he took it and then just kind of like went to the hospital and then immediately rejoined the team as though nothing fucking happened.
Right.
So,
well, like as you finish the story, you were like, oh, it's a success, and he's like holding it, but he's eating an American hot dog. Like, oh, very good hot dog you have here, very good.
Exactly. There's accounts though that like some of the players didn't even know he was attacked. I mean, it's not like they really even shut down that much for it to happen. He was attacked. He just and then
tied his black belt tighter over his fucking wound and just called it.
I mean,
good.
I'll give you exactly, and it turns into basically scenes from any fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme film.
Yeah,
I mean, it is truly blood sport at this point. Yeah.
He's ripping open his freaking calf with a toenail.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
I want to know what he did to like the Japanese Proud Boy after he got cut.
This guy I guess was neutralized pretty quickly. It wasn't necessarily Shoriki. Shoriki himself had security because it was a big envoy that these guys moved with. And so I think it's more interesting and more telling that anyone of War God Society, which, as Justin so eloquently put, Proud Boys of Japan here, any of them were actually even able to get close, particularly with, as all of you have seen a fucking katana, get close with a fucking katana.
Well, they were able to hide fucking 60 baseballs in their kimonos, so somehow this guy's got a katana hidden somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Katana fits nicely into the anus. Just slips right up.
You just slide it right in there. Yeah.
Whoop. Yeah.
It is honestly...
No sheath.
Yeah.
I wish
if
that.
If you get yourself a woman who loves a katana up the ass, that's true love. Do you know what I mean?
I don't want that.
I don't want it. I don't want it for me. If Pornhub is to be believed.
There's gonna be a huge increase for Japanese porn on Pornhub because of this one.
Yeah, there are. Like Japanese baseball? I could jack off probably.
I could probably jack off.
Two highest ranking search terms: Japanese and porthole.
It's going to be Japanese and RBI ?
Yeah, Japanese RBI.
Seriously, what does it stand for again? It's run something.
Runs batted in.
Runs batted in.
So if I'm hitting and somebody runs a base and then comes home.
Okay, so
yes.
you make contact with the ball, okay?
Yeah.
And it's a fair hit, and that person who is on base comes home, that would be an RBI. You get an RBI.
Okay. Now, when I played Little League, the only hits I got were when I got hit with the ball and I got a free base. Does that count as
and
an
that
RBI?
counts too.
That does count.
That is not an RBI. That is
it's not
hit.
an RBI.
Well, it's a walk technically.
Well,
That's a walk.
So
now, if
wait.
all bases are full and he gets to walk, that means the person on third gets to go home, so he gets an RBI.
If the bases are full, yeah.
If bases are full and there's someone on third and you get hit in, that's an RBI.
So you would, at that point, and Kyle, in that context, you would get the walk and you would get an RBI, which makes you look like
an asshole.
Like, what is going on? What is going on with this baseball
KY,
game?
throw yourself in front of every ball. You're going to become a star, baby.
I did.
Yeah.
So my Little League record was I got on base 8 times and I got hit 7 times and I got walked once. So I'm a fucking superstar, basically.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you didn't stay in the fucking batter's box. I watched you.
Oh, I had no muscles, so I kept leaning over everywhere, and my bones got in the way. I'm just like super athletic, so it's like no.
It's actually KY. It is funny. It is funny you say that, not about your athleticism, but about baseball. There was a game just the other night that was actually decided on someone coming home based on a walk.
Just classic. They call that the KY because you slide.
They do call it the KY. They do call it the KY.
Well, was it a walk? Was it a walk from
It was an intentional walk. Yeah, it was not someone being hit. Yeah,
they call that an RBKY.
RBKY.
RBKYI. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that just rolls right off the tongue.
It does. It's so easy to say.
Listen. Just to help cement the moment, because we said the letter so many times, I just want to remind you guys: what is the main meat at Arby's?
Roast beef.
Roast beef.
And what are the initials of roast beef?
RB.
You're welcome.
RBs to make roast beef. RBs.
You know what? Fuck this podcast. I'm done.
When they say RBI, they'll say ribeyes. They'll say, "Oh, he had so many ribeyes."
Yeah,
ribbies.
Say that. Ribbies. They call them ribbies.
Ribbies.
God, baseball is so fucking dull. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, KY, I'm so glad you were on this podcast, dude, and heard this whole thing about fucking baseball. Well, do we want a summation? Or are we good? I think the folk, will they understand, these people? Will they understand what I was saying to them?
I think so. Yeah, I can give a summation.
I thought we said we were going to do our own summations from now on.
Do you want me to give one?
We kind of did, but it doesn't matter. I did pay attention to enough of this, and I didn't get too drunk where I had to take notes. So, yeah, here we go. All right, for the J Money summation, this is what I gathered from this immense and powerful podcast given to us by Big Cat. So we first off started talking about a guy named Horace. He gave us some really good historical background about how baseball made its way into Japan. Then we kind of jumped over to a guy named Matsutaro Shitake, right? Did I say his name correctly?
Matsutaro Shoriki.
Matsutaro Shoriki. Sorry.
I
I will butcher every fucking name you give to me.
Honestly, in post, it's gonna sound much better in post.
Right. Yeah.
Matsutaro
Shoriki.
Okay, Matsutaro Shoriki. This is like a very industrious Japanese man that he had some affiliations with newspapers, created the newspaper, thought it'd be a really great idea, good publicity stunt or event to bring over American baseball players, which he did. He brought over the Babe and a bunch of other famous baseball players, a guy named Moberg.
A guy named
Moberg came over very interesting like side quest we went on about Mo Berg's involvement with OSS, and perhaps some like snapping of some photos that were used for what would have been the American invasion of Japan if we'd haven't dropped nuclear warheads on them. We talked about Shoriki's involvement with some ultranationalists getting cut some way. He was also a very badass police officer, where he was, I think, judo flipping everyone he ran into.
Just all through the streets.
Judo flip.
Yeah, that's factual. That's
Drop
factual.
the purse or I'll judo flip you. Those were his lines constantly.
Yeah, pregnant woman jaywalking, judo flip every time.
Judo flip that pregnant woman.
Oh, I'm judo flipping pregnant women every day. Every day. All right, I lost my place.
Let's just leave it there. Let's just leave it
fuck
there.
Yep.
Let's just leave it there. I think that was good.
That's solid. Yeah.
All right,
As
cool.
he's describing it, I'm saying to myself, yeah, I gave absolutely no fucking context
That's not
to
true.
how all the
Yes,
items
you
fit
did.
together.
That's not true. Honestly, it was a great podcast, man. I loved it. It was cool. And I know you worked on a long time for this one.
I can honestly say I know 100% more about Japanese baseball than I ever did before. That is God's honest truth. I had no fucking idea.
I mean, this is one of those podcasts where I learned so much.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun to hear the stories each week.
Like,
I mean,
I never would have thought, like, baseball in Japan was a thing before World War II. That's mind-blowing to me.